welcome to the Economic Development Innovation Committee meeting. Today we are continuing our work and discussion on our American Rescue Plan Act funding, and I will turn it over to Mr. Raleigh.
Good afternoon, Chairman Melton, members of the committee. So yes, first up we got two items. First is a continuation of the conversation we started last month on the Business Alliance Assistance Program. And then next up, after that, it'll be followed by a conversation on the Digital Connectors Program and potentially using ARPA funds to expand that program. Yes. So yes. Without further ado, I will turn the presentation and podium over to Mark Weldon.
I guess you could tell from my enthusiastic response that the answer to that will be yes, yes,
just
yes.
Just a little.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Madam Mayor, committee members. Mark Weldon, Small Business Development Manager for the City of Raleigh. Wanted to come back after our last session last month and follow up on a couple of loose ends here from our prior meeting. Just to recap that the $500,000 ARPA program opportunity we have here is in recognition of Alliance value to our small business community. There was a lot of discussion around focusing on priority areas that were in need of new Alliance engagement. And two of the particular things we wanted to follow up on today were the basic organizational attributes for Alliance's eligibility questions came up last time. We also noted that we wanted to do that in a way that would not create red tape or equity barriers for emerging organizations. And we also wanted to address a little more detail around program guidelines, how the process will run, the timeline, so on and so forth. There was another motion about additional funding. We don't really address that here today. That was a little outside of the scope of what me and the team were working on today, but we can entertain some conversation about that at the end if you so desire. The goals of what we're calling here as Alliance registration, this goes back to the eligibility questions about as we open up this new program, we want to make sure that we are accommodating organizations that are legitimate, capable, have the capacity, and not becoming the Wild West. So what we want to do is have viable partners. We have done some research into other departments inside the city of Raleigh as well as some other municipalities. A lot of the ideas and thinking that we got here actually came from our colleagues in neighborhood enrichment with their neighborhood registry program, as well as the city of Charlotte has an interesting framework that deals with the Business Alliance community. So pretty straightforward models there. And then from a process perspective, in the spirit of not introducing a bunch of red tape, is we would see really two ways of doing this. New Alliance partners that may be applying for this program, we would want to have some sort of basic application process just to vet the organization. And then for our existing partners who we have a long history with, we would like to do that in a way that's a little more streamlined where basic information like contact information and the time that the organization has been working with the city. We already know that stuff, so we don't need to ask the question twice. So the intent is to keep the burden low for our existing partners. If we do have partners that are coming on board with this program specifically that's ARPA funded, we will have some specifics around federal requirements that we will need to check off on. This is just a summary form of the eligibility requirements. We actually have a draft form back in the office that's probably about two and a half pages long with more detailed, nuanced questions around these themes. But basically, the first question is around, are they here? Are they familiar with the community? The second question is, are they real? Is it structured? Does it exist? Is it an organization that we would be able to enter a relationship with? Number three is it clear what the organization is covering, both from a geography and supported business perspective? And then finally, are they adding value or planning to add value around specific deliverables that our small business community would expect? Marketing, finance, operations, access to capital, resources, what have you. We also are endeavoring to design this in a way that we would be flexible enough to enable new alliances, so not necessarily a long track record if there is a younger emerging organization, as long as they can prove out the capacity. And then also we talked a little bit last time about preference for applications from organizations not already receiving recurring city funding. We want to make sure that we're giving everyone a fair shot, and then assuming that we have sufficient funding, then no bad idea will be turned down. The program goals, going back to the program side of things, this is a slide that we showed last time, but just to remind, is for ARPA, we want to make sure that we are looking at enduring stabilization from these investments. In other words, we don't want to do financial funding for things that are, I guess, Band-Aids, and we want to fundamentally provide value that's going to be more long-lasting. Definite focus on minority and women-owned business communities. We have been working very diligently to get input from our businesses and Alliance community with, I believe, 4 meetings under our belt with the Alliance community. I won't say that we've got all the answers yet, but we're more clear than we were 4 meetings ago. We want to make sure that we are absolutely staying within ARPA and North Carolina economic development compliance. And then finally, we want to structure it in a way that we have flexibility for both citywide ecosystem level ideas as well as alliance-specific ideas to cater to local district needs. Just a quick, I guess, snapshot of what the compliance would look like from an ARPA perspective. I won't read through all of this, but basically ARPA requires us to be able to validate COVID-19 impacts and impacted communities that were more severely impacted, which would typically be underrepresented entrepreneurs, women minority-owned businesses, and census tract-oriented approaches. Last time that I came up here, we had 3 buckets, and it seemed like that was creating a little confusion, so we've combined it into 2. So the way to think about it would be general ecosystem, internally driven program decisions, and then the tailored projects would be the externally driven through an impact partner grant type of approach where we're listening for ideas rather than, I guess, telling the ideas. And the way we broke it up last time was 100, 300, 100. We've just taken the 2 100 parts and combined that into the ecosystem and expansion category at the top, and then the 300 is the same we talked about last time at the bottom. There was some conversation around just trying to get our mind around what some of these projects would look like. This is just an example. This is not based on any proposals or input, but was modeled after some results that we saw out of the city of Charlotte. And the categories are in line with what we would expect from a business alliance, as well as an ARPA-oriented program. Things like technical assistance are high value in ARPA. That's one of the key attributes of the Oak City BizLabs ARPA program that we're currently managing underway right now, and some of the other attributes on here. Like I say, this is an example, hypothetical case of just how the projects could add up to $300,000. Next one is same view, just more on the universal and new alliance projects, where we would be helping to potentially stand up some new organizations or make the ecosystem itself just more healthy with broadly based market data tools, things like that. And there was finally there was a question around timeline, how we would roll this out. We are coming up, hard to believe, on the Christmas holiday season for small businesses. They're already starting to think about this. And I figure we only have like 2 or 3 weeks of runway before that begins to really take on a life of its own. So both the small businesses and the small business alliances will have a lot of their attention devoted on the most important 2 months of the year for our small businesses. So the timeline that you see here is taking that into consideration, mainly a 2023 program implementation. We can do promotions, we can wrap up the program design in the fourth quarter, but we would rather not interfere and distract too much from our small business community until they have safely made it through this coming holiday season. And that is about it. So this is almost the same chart as last time, except just I think a different date. We were just hoping to hear your feedback, your recommendations, and then once we get your okay, we will be vetting all of the details through our ARPA and procurement teams to make sure we stay inside of all of the requirements there, and then getting more granularity around the timelines and resources. And that is the presentation for today. Any questions?
Any questions? Mayor?
I have a question just related to business alliances. Can you give me some examples of, like, we know the big ones, Downtown Raleigh Alliance, the Midtown Raleigh Alliance. Who else?
Great question. I just happened to bring one backup slide that has a list of them on the screen. So they're mainly organized by district or by interest area. And I apologize to Councilmember Branch. I know that there were a couple missing last time, and I failed to update this chart. But know that we know that there's other groups out there. This was just the groups that we are currently dealing with on a regular basis on our ongoing calls that actually started 2 years ago when the pandemic took place. So there are many sizes and shapes. Some are very new. Some have just come on board over the past 12 months. Some have been around for years. Some are membership-based. Some are district-based. And you can read the rest. Any questions or about that list?
No, thank you. That
Right,
was
you're welcome.
helpful.
Councilmember Knight?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of just clarification and to bring up this point around the alliances. I've heard from some of the alliance staff that concern with the compliance parameters that are going to be put on them, and I think this is growing as they learn more about what they're going to have to do to access this funding. So I think that's something we're going to need to work on to make sure that is there another way to go about that, still getting the funding, or are we going to help them work through this this compliance process, because we don't want that to slow down or prevent them from even trying to get this money. So I think that's very important to make this as easy and fluid and flexible as possible. Thank you.
A great question. ARPA compliance is no joke. We learned that putting the Oak City Biz Labs into place, and it is a lot more complex than one would think. So one of the key attributes that was buried on a couple slides back, but the intent would be, to the extent necessary or possible, that the city would be doing direct purchases ourselves. So we're not running money through the alliances if we can avoid that, because once we do have to pass that money through an external organization, then you get into the whole world of contractor versus subrecipient, and then a lot of reporting and paperwork that even our larger, more sophisticated alliances find challenging. I can't even imagine trying to lay that on a two-person volunteer-run organization. So the idea is, if we can use the impact partner grant model for suggestions and ideas, but do it in a way that when we actually are doing the funding, that we're the ones doing the purchasing, that would keep the alliance from having to basically take money out of this ARPA program, pass it on to someone else, and now all of a sudden we have to worry about, are they following federal procurement guidelines? Are they following all these other requirements, where we can probably manage that in-house just a little bit better.
And so have you had conversations with them on this, or is this something that y'all were?
Oh, no, I have heard loud and clear that they do not want to have any part of having to be involved in this
Okay, but as
compliance
part of this
complexity.
solution that you're offering, or partial solution, is that something you've been talking to the alliances already about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're in agreement with that. Just keep us in the loop as y'all move forward, make sure it continues to go smoothly.
Absolutely. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I move for approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? It's 4-0. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
I know we had a very in-depth discussion last time. I appreciate you sort of streamlining the funding into the two categories. I think that helps a lot. And I'm looking forward to getting this to full council and then out.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Do we have a part 2 of the presentation?
No. We're just moving on to the next item on the agenda. I just wanted to,
Digital connectors.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's still the ARPA funding.
Yeah,
right?
it is. Still, I guess part 2 of ARPA, sure. So just was going to call up Bradley Upchurch, who is our digital inclusion manager, who's going to give you a proposal on the expansion of digital connectors. So Bradley, take it away.
Awesome.
Motion to approve.
Good afternoon. Well, thank you so much for the support. I wanted to provide some information as it relates to bridging the digital divide for underserved populations here in Raleigh throughout the digital inclusion programs. So EDI was set in motion to evaluate the digital divide within our community and then develop strategies to connect underserved neighborhoods to affordable internet service through partnerships with the private sector and nonprofits. So our unit follows a national model of implementing digital inclusion efforts called the three-legged stool. So the legs of digital inclusion are home broadband access, digital literacy training and resources, and reliable and meaningful home computer devices. We consider all of these legs important in helping us support our underserved communities with resources that can help alleviate the divide. So the data shown on this map comes from the American Community Survey. The census tracts listed with the numbers on this map are areas of our city where at least 20% of the population still does not have a broadband subscription. Even many of those with a broadband subscription oftentimes are still in need of a meaningful computer device, or they may need access to digital literacy training to help them fully invest in the digital economy. One of the ways we've been able to address the digital divide directly is through our Digital Connectors program. So as many of you know, this program is for selected civically engaged youth who commit to a program that focuses on leadership, technology, and volunteerism that assists in providing technology resources that focus on digital inclusion efforts. So the program runs over the course of 9 months and culminates in a graduation ceremony where all participants receive $500 and a new laptop computer. So many of the participants here enjoy their time so much they come back to serve as digital ambassadors. The digital ambassadors meets once a week, and they continue to help us with volunteer efforts. The Digital Connectors, just to give you some historical context, began in 2011 as a part of the BTOP grant and American Investment and Recovery Act under the Obama administration. So over the last decade, Digital Connectors and the Alumni Network have trained over 4,000 residents in digital literacy, refurbished and distributed over 1,000 computers, and collectively have served over 10,000 volunteer service hours. ARPA funding will provide a huge benefit to expanding the impact of our programs. I have summarized here the total sum for both the technology equipment and upgrades, as well as the increased staff and increase to incentivizing both the Digital Connectors and Ambassadors programs. We believe this funding is critical to successfully expanding digital inclusion programs, which includes Digital Connectors, Ambassadors, as well as device distribution and digital literacy. Also wanted to share a summary of benefits this funding is providing to our efforts. So technology and equipment upgrades to the Raleigh Pathways Center will provide a huge impact to not only the digital inclusion programs we have, but also other programming at the center. The funding also includes a budget for the digital ambassadors, and as mentioned, we would provide increased part-time staff that would allow us to expand the Digital Connectors program, provide new digital literacy opportunities, and computer distribution efforts. So thank you. Are there any questions?
Second the motion.
Do we have questions, or we want to just jump ahead?
I do have one question.
Okay.
You know, I know at one point IBM was a sponsor of this program, and I have talked to them, and they said that they are still interested. Are they still involved?
Yes, actually, we were working with Phaedra, I believe, Bonadiris, the head of gamification there, and I'm working on getting them back into the classroom and doing some facilitation. In terms of funding, I have not heard anything on that front, but willing to reach out for that.
Well, I'm wondering if we could, if they would be willing to either provide computers or contribute to that, because that could be a savings. And so could you go back to
Yeah.
the investment? Like if we could get funding, then we could increase more staff potentially and grow even more.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
One
Yeah, I can definitely reach out. And we have some contacts there, but if there are others, I'd love to reach out as well.
So one thing I would be interested in is I've talked to other companies too about this program. Do you have something kind of pulled together that shows like what you do, the funding?
Yeah.
I will be happy to reach out.
Okay, great. Yeah, we
Some
have a fact
folks.
sheet and some other information I can provide.
That would be awesome.
Customer branch.
Yeah, I was going to, can you provide me with that information as well? Right now, IBM no longer makes computers, but Lenovo, who does, and I know their foundation director. So I wanted to make that connection as well, because through Lenovo's foundation, we may be able to work and get some things. But definitely, I know IBM is sitting on a nice, beautiful building, and they have some funds that they can also probably
That's what I was hoping.
participate. So I think between those two entities coming together, it'll help us grow the program and reach into the community. And then I think also another side conversation when I looked at broadband and connectivity, we can give my former employer AT&T to work on connectivity, and I can push more now because I no longer work for them. So that's something that definitely, I think looking between them and Google and everybody else that wants to put in broadband and leveraging the money from the federal government, this new broadband policy, what are we getting here in Raleigh? Because I understand our rural communities and the need, but we still have the need here in Raleigh. We have major pockets that should not exist.
Yep.
And it's based around affordability from what we've
Exactly.
seen with our distribution program. And so we've been giving out information on the assistance programs there too.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Is the Innovation and Strategy Department involved in this at all?
Yes.
Okay,
They've been
excellent.
doing brainstorming sessions so we can look at the digital divide a little bit deeper. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, well, I made the motion. Corey has seconded. Want to call for the vote?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed. I had one other point I wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
I think our last meeting, we got an update in the agenda backup material on the community engagement bus. And I know that that has been allocated funding separately, but one of the ideas we had was to use that as an extension of our digital connectors program.
Yeah.
And so is that funding, I know the bus is funded separately, but have we had any consideration about if we can find some more funds for the digital connectors program, how we can put some assets or money into the engagement bus and to address the gaps, actually get it out into the community so people don't have to come to us?
Yeah, that's definitely, I think Taisha mentioned that to me many, many months ago. And we're definitely open to providing our volunteer time to help with that and looking at the funds for sure.
I think it'd be helpful if we could
Yeah.
find a way to put a piece of this program on the bus, and that way we can get it to folks where they live or
Yeah.
work or play, and so it's not as dependent on them coming to us too.
That's a great idea.
Okay, that's all I have.
Well, I just want to say Councilmember Branch and I have conspired to expand this program over many years.
Yes.
And I will say COVID kind of got in the way, but we are both thrilled.
Yes,
that-
finally,
Yes.
to go from 15 to 30. And I know we cannot clone you, but we're trying. And we have to make sure that we find a way to make sure he stays, Evan.
Noted.
Yeah, no pressure. Let's do it. Yeah.
Mr. Raleigh, do we have anything else today?
That's all.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
everyone. Meeting adjourned.
Appreciate it.